6:01.
6:01.
Yes, sir, it is.
Announcement. This meeting is the Board of Directors meeting of Single Bill Ranch Homeowners Association. The board will be conducting a normal business, possibly voting on items brought before the board. The attendees are asked not to interrupt the board. If attendees have any questions or concerns, they will be called upon by the board at the appropriate time. Thank you for attendance. First thing on the agenda is approval of the August 2011 minutes.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Next on the agenda will be manager report.
One of the things we want to talk about this evening was state of SBR community. It was mentioned by Paul that there might be a need for a second community garage sale. So we did want to bring that up for communication and see what the board's feelings were about a second garage sale. Any thoughts?
We normally only have one to where the association has advertised and paid for.
Okay.
We would have that in March.
Yes.
I think maybe we should try one like in the,
Was Paul trying to think of one in the fall, in the winter?
He had received a couple of requests, asking if there would in fact be one. So we simply wanted to bring it up and see what
I'd be open to have one like in November.
I'll just know where to do
we have another meeting prior to November. You guys would like to continue it? Okay, you bet. We'll bring it back up in November. The other thing we wanted to bring up was missing BOD binders. This is something that's been passed along to your attorney. Basically, IPM was charged with the responsibility to collect these binders that have not been returned by Gary Barkman and Anthony Scopoletti, prior board members. Many attempts, many letters have been sent out, many emails, so we were careful to document this over the last few months, and we still, in fact, do not have these binders. Regrettably, we're also missing Frank, and I want to get the name correct, is it McConkey?
Yep.
Frank McConkey, who we spoke with, who turned over his binder to Mr. Scopoletti. That binder has not been turned over either.
And
So,
I can just interrupt you
Sure.
a moment. I know from Frank that it was his binder and all of his information was turned over with the assumption that it would stay with the board in the preceding president or seat that required his information.
those were his statements to us as well, that he had turned it over, as is always, you turn it over, that way the information is passed on and the board retains it. That is actually required. So what we've done at this point in time is we'd like to make sure that each member that's viewing the meeting understands that these binders have been withheld at this point, all the information. Gary, approximately 9 years on the board. All that information has not been made available to this current board or management, including other board members that have passed along their information. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, in that paperwork, we know that there's a lot of private information that actually belongs to the board and should not be left with whoever's got that paperwork.
That is correct.
Which is Anthony Stokerite and Gary Baker.
That is correct. The information that is within those books is the association property, and you are correct. Retaining it is not allowed. That is correct.
So it's a form of thievery, but we can't call it thief.
Well, at this point in time, there is private information that is for the board alone, that is out there in the public. That is correct.
Are there any options? Have we spoken with the attorney? Are there any options?
What we did was, we did our responsibility, our due diligence, which was contacting them and making them aware of what they were doing, what their actions were, what the repercussions of those actions could in fact be. Disappointed with the fact that continued no response or flat out will not turn over the information. So at this point in time, we were advised by your attorney to get it in the minutes, in the board meeting, that these binders have not been turned over, and that the information within those binders that have been retained by these individuals who are no longer on the board is not the result of lack of action by both management and board. And we've established that tonight. So the next action will be at the next board meeting. Moving further on the manager report, we have appointing new BOD members. We have 2 open spots, and IPM has email blasts that will be going out, as well as the 4th quarter newsletter being worked on, where this will be mentioned as well, asking for those that would like to volunteer to please put in their name for those 2 open seats. The last thing is misinformation and miscommunication that is out there. We have got what I affectionately call an obsession. I have an obsession, or somebody that is obsessed with me out there. Wendy, you too have this individual or individuals that are obsessed with you, and this board has individuals that are obsessed with them, either a individual or a group of individuals. You might be shocked to hear that there are nearly dozens of sites being created around this obsession. New ones popping up nearly weekly.
What are those?
Those are comments, and I'll cover that. Those are comments and postings about minutes for Signal Butte Ranch, which are not actually minutes for Signal Butte Ranch. So, surprising to us, it says there, Signal Butte Ranch fan, click here to download your minutes. We also have a comment for somebody asking about those minutes, and when are there going to be more? And that's a surprise to us, because these actually are not minutes from this board.
No.
These are not minutes from this board. So somebody is misrepresenting what minutes exist out there for Signal Butte Ranch. And not just here, not just at this location, but throughout the internet, all over the place for anybody, not just for the association. The intent was not for false misinformation to be sent to members of your association. It was meant for everybody to see this false information. These individuals went out of their way to post it on sites that are public, that have absolutely nothing to do with Signal Butte Ranch. And again, you clearly see that these are January 2011 minutes. But those don't exist, so that can't be. Same with December. Those again are minutes that do not exist. It's fraud. And again, we were instructed to bring it up in the board meeting for each member that views this, and there were quite a few that view your board meetings, that there are individuals falsely posting information out there and fraudulently claiming that they are in fact documents from the association. We were shocked at this. when they're readily available just by requesting them from the property management company. So we're not sure why it's out there.
Do you know who owns the Single Bit Ranch Man's website?
At this time, we're not giving out the information about who owns it. We're simply posting that individual or individuals are posting false, fraudulent information and claiming it as something that's not true. We also, unfortunately, as I said, we all have this obsession that's being brought towards us. It now has gone into a dysfunction. It's not just an obsession, it's a dysfunction in my opinion, because we have what appears to be a journal of sorts of false information, dates that go down on events that have occurred. Richard, you're highlighted in this as a board member. There's claims of you pulling knife on people. There's claims of you using curse words and threatening people, pointing your fingers at them and pulling them like a gun. There's statements as incriminating as you slow driving your car, Richard. This is serious stuff that I encourage each of you, that if you run into these individuals, to immediately call the police.
Right.
There are lots and lots of records. Wendy herself, as the board, as the manager, as required to work with the board, actually went to the court out of fear and said, hey, I have an obsession here. We have a real problem here. And we have continued on a weekly basis to update Mesa concerning this obsession and the continued postings and tracking of board members, of managers, and of individuals that own any company relevant to Single View Range.
Well, from what I've seen up here, I should be actually worried that someone might throw rocks through my windows for what they got up here.
Well, I'll tell you, that's an interesting point that you bring up. That you're worried about rocks being thrown because somebody went out of the way to make derogatory remarks about you and your love or lack of love towards animals, and then went as far, not just to post it, but to put out there actual ways to pull up your name. Your name is now out there that when I Google it, this garbage is coming up. This is garbage. This is some person obsessed, sitting at a computer, putting their view of the world out there for somebody to view. And in my opinion, I would be fearful of what's out there and what could result by others that read this. That's the real concern. As your management company, we need to bring this sort of stuff up and make it aware to both each member of this association as well as to the public that this is occurring.
Especially in the live feeds.
Does this come under any internet crime or anything?
That's also good.
What we're doing is we're documenting. We are each week documenting and sending it off to the appropriate authorities of what's being put out there to show the continued obsession that is occurring.
I think the city of Mesa has a
Can
crime
somebody
internet.
be in violation of the law action suit that's out there right now?
I'm sorry, Andrea,
Can someone be in violation right now?
we can't have you
Okay.
interrupting the board with board business. Thank you, though. Yes, this is all being tracked down. Yeah, all of this information is being kept. Like I said, we're putting in extra hours to be able to keep up with all the new sites that are being created in the comments that are being put out there. As I said, this kind of stuff, it worries me. And I think you should take it very serious, okay?
I just have a question.
Sure.
What is
This was posted, again, outside the realm of Single Butte Ranch. It was important that the world view this. No relevance to ranch whatsoever. This is somebody's view of their account of interacting with the board.
How do you find this? You just-
If you Google this information, it pops up.
Really?
But
No, it
worse than
doesn't.
what's just simply popping up is the fact that it's being sent on to others. We have almost 20 individuals that receive information that send it on to us and again follow up with, is this true? Is this real? like the minutes, no, it's not. Those are not the minutes. That is not the correct information. If in fact you're looking for the right information, you should contact management or a board member and discuss it with them and request the appropriate documents. Did you guys have any other questions about that? We will continue to document and we'll continue to
Well,
update.
if you do, we need to monitor this closely,
Yep.
because sooner or later, something's gonna happen,
Exactly.
and that's ridiculous.
I would agree. I would agree with you, Art.
I mean, you're gonna push it,
Well, it's forcing me to pack a gun constantly now.
Isn't that a
Well-
threat?
Pardon?
Andrea, I'm going to ask you again, please do not interrupt the board. Thank you. So we're going to move on to financials. Again, we're going to update everybody that the financials are sent out with the 12 reports and that this is a snapshot today of where the accounts stand, barring those that are currently in CD form for the reserve. So currently we have the operating as well as the reserve that's within Gateway, aside from those particular CDs that have not been transferred over to the money market account as of yet. Yes, sir.
I don't mean to go back, but I just thought of it about when we were talking about the missing DOD line.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank Andrea for turning over her book. Very professional manner she did it, and I appreciate it, and I think all the people involved should be have to do that. If you're concerned about our community, this is not helping our community out by withholding binders. That's all I got to say.
I appreciate that. One more thing on financials. IPM is, we had to go back. We didn't have your bank statements, so we had to go to your old banks and request all your old bank statements. And it cost a small fortune, but we now received all of your bank statements for the prior few years. And we've continued to go through them, and we continue to gather information, and we'll be updating everyone through these board meetings on what we're finding and what we're discovering as we go through these, just to catch up IPM. We've only been here now just under a year, and so we do want to better understand what was occurring in the prior years leading up to IPM and our management. One of the things that we noticed was, this is a snapshot of TOPS. This is somebody's account that was put into TOPS. This was sent to us by the prior management company. This particular individual right here at the top, they had moved out at the time. They had moved out. They were no longer here in the association, but collection efforts against them were ongoing. And what I mean by collection efforts are hard costs that we assume, because we don't have those minutes, we don't have binders to help with this. We assume it was agreed to that a hard cost or upfront agreement with your prior management company to do collections on Sept Branch's behalf would lead to assessments being collected. Does that make sense? You guys agreed to pay Renaissance up front for efforts to collect on assessments. So right here,
Prior board you're talking.
prior board, I apologize, prior board had agreed to, had somewhere right here at this amount, is that $1,230 that we're looking at there? You spent over $3,000 in hard costs. That means you cut checks for this with zero performance, zero return, which now totals $4,700. So if you had wrote a check for this assessment, you'd be ahead by $3,000. You had offered to pay this guy's bill in full of his assessments, you'd be ahead again by $3,000. Nothing was collected on this. The collection efforts on this continued right up to the very last day through prior management company, who we assumed it was voted on and agreed to that they would get hard costs for upfront without necessarily having to have any results occur as those costs were ongoing.
But I do know for a fact that a prior treasurer on the board tried to get this to be stopped, and it was voted down by the past president and board members, because what she was wanting to do was get it to where her signature would be required on a check, and it was voted down.
Well, what,
Our Renaissance could run freely because nobody could ever see the books.
well, what we're looking at on this particular right here is a decision by the board to allow expenditures without results. And we're recommending, as we talked about in the last board meeting, that you hire somebody to do your collections that is performance-based. They don't get any money until they collect something. We think that this old approach, which led to $103,000 in bad debt just from homeowners that have moved away. Small fraction of that being actual assessments, the rest of it being paid out collection costs to the prior management company for those collection efforts. So at this time, as the board talked about last meeting, that $103,000 just for members that have left or no longer here, that will be wiped away through this budget. And any collections of this, again, going back to performance, and Richard, your question, was money coming back in? And as we show here, we don't show any collections. If any occurs, we don't have that documentation, we only have this. What we're seeing here is, where does it go? And you voted last month to have a specific line item code that shows what money is coming in on that 103 that's been written off. And hopefully tonight you vote on a collection company that's performance-based and expects no money up front, and hopefully we can curb some of these examples of triple, quadruple of an assessment expense for collections. And I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
Talk about the safety recommendations. We have the high wall barriers for Wood Park, plus the zip stick.
Yes, I do. The proposal that we have from Tot Lot is for new pipe wall barriers to go where the slides were at,
The broken side.
the broken slides. And to me, I'm against that because I think if we take something away, we need to put something back. So for right now, I would like to see at least one zip stick be put into one park and allowing the other parks to be barred off with the intention in 2012 to replace those bars with something else where the children can utilize it.
As long as it doesn't go in the big one, I'll let that go in.
I would say the Noble Park,
To start with.
yes, because it has the most children.
I'll go with that.
I think we need to have more input on this with the board members. We wait till the next,
Okay, that's
well, I hate to keep putting
No,
it
no,
off.
that's all right, that's all right.
Well, let me finish.
Okay.
I hate to keep putting it off, but our regular meetings will probably start next month. I mean, on a regular basis, I guess. And I think maybe then we can research it a little more anyway, and then hopefully our other board members will be here.
My only concern with doing that is that things keep getting put off and put
Well,
off
I understand.
and put off. I'd rather see at least something done, maybe tabling the other parks and at least doing one.
Well, I don't know if they're gonna be in agreement with what you're talking about. I mean, I don't like them, but that's my opinion. If there's something else we could put in there, I agree with you replacing it with
it that way, too.
Yeah.
Well, let's just go ahead and table it since.
I mean, I hate to put it off
No, no.
another month, but what I'm saying is, I don't think we're gonna have the votes here to get it in.
That's fine, let's just table it because we know there's another emergency involved in this tonight, so we'll table this and move on. Review of insurance bids.
So on this one, what our advice was, last month we had those various bids come in from the different insurance companies that were placed into the August packets for review. And at this time, if you had a particular company that you felt would better serve, we would ask that you would instruct us to do an application. Because a proposal and an actual application for insurance are two different things. So we have a dollar right now in those proposals that were given, but the application will give you your actual, these are what the dollars are. And as you know, the prior insurance that we had, we were looking to increase the coverage.
So we need to do the application.
Yes, if you guys have a particular company that you felt would be best for the community, we would simply ask that you pass a motion to direct us for an application which does not mean acceptance, and then we would discuss it again in October.
None of us have the names of the companies, so let's just table
They
it.
will,
Yeah, I have them.
last month.
Yeah, didn't I?
Okay,
Get it out.
But no, we're just gonna table it now.
okay. With the number of board members here tonight, I would agree with that as well.
Okay, next topic will be a security contract.
This was something that was reviewed again last month as well. This was something that was discussed, who was out there, and if we in fact were looking for another company, pricing, days, locations, all that good stuff. So in the last packet, that was placed there for you guys to continue to review. You bet.
Art, did you go over this overview of bids?
I did some, but I'm still not.
Okay, we're gonna table that one too.
You bet. You bet. We have a overseeding proposal for the 3 small parks. This was the same as last year's dollars that were recommended, or proposed, I should say.
I say we do the overseeding of small parks.
Let me give you the dollar amount, just to help out, $2,975.
And that's for the small parks, of course.
Just the 3 small parks, yes ma'am.
I would agree. I think this is something we need to do.
Does that include the extra mowing?
It does.
That includes poking holes in the ground too.
Yes, in December.
I make a motion that we approve of this.
Second position.
All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Committee improvement?
The master valve removal, we are moving forward with that. We will have something for you guys by next month.
Okay. Reserve study?
I'm going to touch on this briefly. It's recommended you guys have a reserve study update every 2 years. The reason for that is it's ever changing. And this is a document or a guide that helps dictate where money is going, what should be saved, it's our thoughts that after, it's approximately 4 years that we're at this point, going into 5 years next year, that you hire on great boards out of those that you had. We'll leave it to you guys on who you'd like to go with. But for a full reserve study, for Signal Butte Branch, not just an update, but a full reserve study.
I can't believe this meeting.
Do we have a cost on that?
It run last month.
They were last month.
It was $950 for great boards.
It's a full,
There was one I read some about, it. There was one that said that we can kind of tell him what we want the reserves to do, and he would work with us.
The concept behind great boards, what he had commented to us was, not only does he just come out and drive through the community and use old data, but he actually meets with the board, or can meet with the board, or meet with management, or meet with individuals, and discuss the reserve study, what they'd like to see, what kind of approach you guys are looking for.
I think that's what we need.
That's the one I wanted.
Okay.
What's that name again?
Great boards,
Great Board?
great boards.
I make a motion, we have a Great Board do it. All in favor, say
Well,
aye.
we need to have discussion, we're gonna open it up.
Okay.
With the motion, we're gonna open it up to the board, or excuse me, to the community. You have 2 minutes, if you'd like to make any comments concerning the reserve study, acceptance of a great boards coming in and doing a new study. All right, if you wanna go ahead and move forward.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Collection company discussion?
So once again, as we said, we really recommend a performance-based collections approach. Not a hard cost, not a flat amount that comes out on a monthly basis, but in fact, a performance-based. Here's the account, you go and collect it, and you get a percentage of it. When with, I apologize, what was the name of the
A&R.
Thank you, A&R
Yeah, I look at-
Collections. Her approach includes the most basic of collections, which is reporting to the collection agencies, so that these dollar amounts follow individuals, not just in a lien being filed or claim to be filed or letter after letter going out, but in fact, performance-based, here's this amount, and whatever she collects, there's a 30%. That's what was outlined for you guys. Again, there was 4 different companies for you guys to review, so we'll leave it to you on who you feel is best. That's who our recommendations for because of that collection or the reportings that she did within 60 days. So as these accounts potentially turned over to her within 60 days, these individuals will have these dollars appear on their collection reports.
I'm gonna table this,
Okay?
get more members here.
You bet.
Feel that we don't have-
You bet. You bet. Okay. And lastly, we've got the Architectural Control Committee. As we pointed out, for reasons again that we don't understand, because we don't have the binders, we don't have the information, but the board brought the Architectural Committee into itself, which means all prior individuals that were denied would not have the appeal process that's afforded to everybody. So that appeal process was denied to them. And we're encouraging anybody during that period, with apologies for that policy out there, to come forward if in fact you were denied under the Architectural Control Committee. While the board was the committee, we've actually had incidences where the board who nominated themselves as the committee denied somebody and didn't explain when that individual showed up at the board meeting that the board was both the committee as well as the appeal process. So those individuals showed up without being told that, and were denied a second time. So in fact, their right for appeal was denied. So we encourage anybody that watches tonight's meeting to please contact us, and we will do our best to try to rectify that. We do apologize on behalf of the board and the association. Now with the committee, that appeal process is back in. And what we've established, we've asked the Rhonda to help establish a location, a date, and a time, and I think she's done that. Rhonda, any comments on it? On the committee?
No. There are 2 applications that will not be able to be voted on until the committee has a meeting
Okay, all
for
right.
the state requirements.
And the committee had posted and recommended, it was for, you'll have to help me, Wendy, or excuse me, Ron, you have to help me. The committee was recommending the 3rd Friday.
3rd Friday of every month
Okay.
at 10 o'clock in front of my house.
And that address is,
10655 East Baywood Avenue.
so we'll need a motion to accept, under the new committee laws, this location, this notification of where the meeting will be held. Anybody would like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Art? Anybody
I'll
second?
second.
Discussion for anybody in the community concerning the Architectural Control Committee meeting location?
Right, sir.
I had no discussion on where to meet, but I feel that all board members should be there, or nothing should be passed.
It only requires a quorum.
There's 3 on the board.
So 5 on the board, if there's 3,
There was last month, they said there was just 3 on the board,
Richard?
on the committee.
Committee agreed. He's recommending that you have the entire board.
No,
Be at
not
the
the entire
committee,
board,
but-
the entire committee there.
Mark?
Can't pass anything without the entire committee being
And that is the goal for every 3rd Friday, is the committee will meet and approve anything that has come in.
there. I agree, but I think that the entire committee should be there. I don't think that if you got, it's 3 against, and you're the only one there, I don't think that's
It would not
right.
be a meeting then.
Yeah,
Right, there won't be a meeting.
It would not be a meeting. It has to be all 3.
that's
Yeah,
all I'm
if somebody,
recommending. Yeah.
if somebody can't make it, then the meeting goes to the next month. But you're right, all committee members will be there.
I believe then it should be, if they all can't make it that particular time, you can't really force the homeowner to wait another month. If there's somebody sick that month, there'd be another month. I think another meeting should be called as soon as
I
possible.
do believe that our CCNRs are 60, either 60 or 90 days that we have. And yes, the ultimate goal is to do it as soon as possible. But if somebody can't make it, we have no alternative. And with the new laws, that is the requirement.
Well, 60 to 90 days, it's a very large chance that you'll have the meeting. So that's not a problem.
Well, we can conference call. I was just informed as well.
I think that's something that the committee needs to work out. So,
Yep, I agree. All in favor?
and if they can't, then
All in favor that they are sick